Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how I make presentations using Canva. If you've never heard of Canva before, I do have an affiliate link down below, so if you want to try it out, there is a totally free version. I personally use the pro version just because there's a lot more elements to use in terms of free templates, free icons, free photos, and everything like that. And as I go through the demonstration, you'll sort of get what I mean, because a lot of the stuff that I'm using, you'll see that they are the pro ones and that there is sort of a more limited amount of things available in the free one. So I definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you are like me, you've started up your own little PhD brand. Obviously consult your tax advisor before doing anything like that, but for me it's a business expense and it is something that is very worthwhile. I make everything in Canva, my thumbnails that you'll see on these YouTube videos, my Instagram posts. By the way, I do have a new Instagram account, PhD and Productivity, so be sure to check that out. Basically any poster presentations, again, I have a video on that, so be sure to check that out. And now all of my presentations I make in Canva. And I have been getting some really good feedback recently from some of you, because I did share on my Instagram stories my presentation that I was working on. And after giving a couple of presentations in the last couple of weeks, I have gotten a lot of really good feedback about the presentation from people in my internship who were judging a startup competition, but we came second. But one of the things that we were told was that our presentation was the best in terms of the actual slides and everything like that, and all of the different things that we used in terms of the transitions. And as well, I did get some good feedback in a conference recently where somebody was saying they really liked the amount of different things that I used in my presentation. And I also got a couple of emails telling me that they really liked my presentation and what did I use to make my presentation, because everyone's saying I'm looking at that and I know it's not PowerPoint. And I said it's definitely not PowerPoint because I don't have any products like that on my computer. So I just use Canva for everything. Without further ado, I want to get into how I make my presentation slides using Canva. The first thing that I just want to mention before getting into that is how to actually decide what goes into your presentation based on your paper that you might be presenting. I usually spend a couple of slides providing a really good introduction to the topic. I think that's really good for making people understand, the same way in your paper, why it is important that they have this information, why they should basically pay attention to your talk at all. So I usually spend a good few slides introducing the idea of what's going on, and that's usually just things that I've taken from the introduction section of the paper. Then I usually have a couple of slides going through the methods. Again, all this information is taken from the methodology section, but it's just presenting it in a way that will be understandable to the general audience. And lastly, going through the results, again, taking things from the results section in my paper. If you're in a different field to me, the way your paper might be laid out could be very different. And I think it's probably good to spend a similar amount of time on each section of your paper as you do in word count. And one thing that I recommend before you get started putting anything onto your slides, don't start off with templates before you know what you want to have in your slides in terms of information. So I would say pull out all of the information first, maybe throw it into a Word document, the main points that you want to have and all of the images that you want to include, before looking at any templates. Because one thing that I found working with other people on presentations is that once you start off with a template, you'll look at the thing and just say, okay, well, I have to fill this slide with some information, and you'll end up just filling it with random text that you really don't need, and it will just take away from the main information that you're trying to get across in your presentation. So that is my first tip. To start off, I just want to give an overview of the presentation that you guys will be sort of seeing, and the one that I'll just be sort of demonstrating a couple of key things. For each of these slides, if there's anything major, I will have a timestamp in later on in the video for when I sort of share how to get that slide effect. what we're going to do is we're going to start with a presentation. So with the Pro version, there are a bunch of templates available, and you can always see the ones that you've recently used. So this is the one that I was using for my presentation. I did change the colors a bit. I usually like to start off by just loading in all the pages, because then you can just sort of take a look at what you have going for you already and see which of these might be useful for some of the things that you want to include, and some may or may not be useful. So let's just see. I knew that I wanted sort of similar cover page. This is probably a good if you want to do like a summary slide to say sort of how the presentation is going. These types are really good if you have any sort of quotes or any like single pieces of information that are quite important. And I also used these for some of the headings as well. So this one I didn't use, and I don't think I would use. I didn't end up using anything like this, although probably could have been useful. A couple of these I used, so I'll keep that for the moment. I used this type of one, I used this type of one. I didn't use anything like this or this or this. I did use a slide like this. I didn't use a slide like this, but I definitely could have. Didn't use anything like this. Did use one of these for my conclusion slide. Again, didn't use any of these or these. Actually, yeah, I did use one of these, I think. I didn't use any of these. So just basically going through to see what might be useful and what might I want to get rid of. And yeah, this is probably a good reference page. I didn't include any references in my talk, but it's actually really, really simple to start getting a really good looking presentation. Let's talk about adding in transitions. So that's something that I think really made my presentation stand out a lot recently, was playing around with transitions. And with Canva, it is really, really easy. So you have like a lot of options. This one I tend to use when there is text. I feel like this one's quite flashy. There is something where you're fading in, there's pan. This one I use a lot as well. This one I use a lot for graphs and things. This one's a bit dramatic, but it's really useful for one thing in particular that I'll come through to later. Yeah, so there's really a lot of choices here. Now, some of these are Pro. I don't actually use a lot of the Pro ones. I do like the Stomp one. I didn't use that one. Yeah, I don't really use a lot of these. Let's start off with just the basic block. And we can add these to all the different slides. So you could just like go through all of them and add them, or you can go through one by one and just see what fits the best. So let's use a pan for this one. This one is one where it's nice to have it sort of like coming in and changing a bit. I'm trying to think, I used one for, oh yeah, this one I think was the one that I used, where it just sort of comes through and then it means it's like coming up and it sort of moves around the whole time. So let's use that one there. Then when you want to actually present, so I actually still presented this presentation within Canva. I didn't download it or anything, because it means that you are allowed to have all of your animations be there. When you download it, obviously they all go, so that's sort of not ideal. So let's just present and see how we're doing so far in terms of like variety of the slides and the transitions. So already we have something that's looking pretty good. These ones in particular I really like for when you have a good quote. Again, we've got that transition, this transition, and I just feel like these are quite nice, especially when you're talking for a couple minutes in between. You almost sort of forget about the transitions, and it just sort of is a nice thing to have. Okay. And our dramatic ending. Okay, so we're doing pretty well so far. So in terms of the pictures, you can like keep any in and just replace them with pictures that you like. So in the free version of Canva, there are a ton of really good high quality pictures available. In the Pro version, I mean, so you can see like, so that one's free. But a lot of these that are there are Pro pictures, and these are really good quality like high-res pictures, and so that's one of the benefits of having the Pro, is that you do have access to these pictures. However, if you want to get high quality photos, you can go onto a website called Pexels. So again, this is completely free and you get some really good high quality images here. So these will be a lot of the same images that you'll actually see in Canva. So they have some sort of partnership with Pexels, I guess, I think, or maybe they just use the same images, but you'll see a lot of the similar images there, and you're able to just download these for free and then upload them. So the next thing I want to show you guys is just how to load in some of your own graphs and things like that. So let's say for this picture here, I'm going to put in my own graph. So you can upload from your own, like from wherever on your desktop, or you can just like drag things in and they will automatically come up here. So I need to find a couple of pictures, any graphs that I have. Okay, yeah, let's go for this one. So now that I have this picture here, one thing that becomes interesting is we then get some photo colors. So this is how you can start to customize things to make them all sort of fit in nicely, which I think is really, really good, because now I'm just going to go back and do the same for all of these other slides and just make them all a bit more cohesive. I don't really like, I think the black is quite like full on, and I feel like it's nicer to have it when it leads in nicely with your slides in some way. So let's just imagine that I've done that in all of our other slides to make it all more cohesive and a bit brighter. Okay, so I have this image that's one of the images that I use for my PhD. Obviously, like, this sort of stark white color isn't really going to blend in super well with the current background, which is more of a gray color. So to sort of alleviate this, what I can do is use the background remover tool. Obviously, like, one thing I could do is I did actually make this in Canva, like this graphic itself, and I could just go back and get the graphics and copy and paste them in. But let's say this was something that hadn't been made in Canva and we couldn't go and do that easily. So we're going to go to edit image, and then we're going to do background remover. And now we just have the image, but we don't have any of the background. So it means that anything that we change the background to, it will just be the same kind of background for the image, which is really, really handy. So this is something that we only have in the Pro version, but it is definitely really, really, really useful. I'll show you how to make these types of graphics now as well. So let's just do a new slide. First thing is with text, it's really easy to add in any kind of text. I'll just move myself over here temporarily. Obviously you can have lots of different types of text you've got going on here, but I usually just use sort of plain text, and then I go to whatever font I want, and they have pretty much most fonts, so you can sort of do whatever you want. So let's just say, what do I have up here? The representation challenge. So it's really easy to make different graphics like this in Canva, and then you'll just have them for use throughout your PhD, which is really, really helpful. So for this, I'm going to go into the elements, and it's really easy when you're just looking for something in particular. So let's say I was looking for something like history. I just look up things and I'll find a lot of images, but I'll also find a lot of these sort of icons. Again, what we'll find is that some of these are free and some of these are pro. There's this one here I like to use, which is a pro one. And you can usually find something similar in the free section, but this would probably be the one thing for me that has me using the pro version than the free version, is firstly the templates. There's just so many more templates, but mainly it's all these icons, because it's just so much easier to just have them there. If you don't have the pro version, you can still use these icons, but there will be a small Canva watermark. If that doesn't bother you, like, then that's grand, you know. But if it does, it does. Okay, so like basically I can just look at all of the different things that I might need in terms of the icons. Let's say this, and just have these all be linked together in some way. So you can just find all of these things. What else do you want? Plan, let's see. And I usually like to just do these black and white ones rather than the super colorful ones, just because I feel like then they look better if you are doing it for like a paper or something like that. And then you could just like add in some arrows to make it look like a diagram basically. So let's add that in. You do have to like take a bit of time, I feel, to sort of get used to how to like work with this stuff in Canva. I feel like there's a lot of copying, pasting, and just sort of adjusting things, but it is something that you get used to over time. And pretty much anytime I need to make anything now, I'll just head on over to Canva. So that's not the best, but you get the idea that it is sort of something that you can easily create these sort of graphics, and like really effective graphics compared to, at least I don't have PowerPoint, I just have Keynote. And while it is possible to make stuff like this, it's not possible to get as good a graphic going as you can have there. So you can see this is the same as, let's see, this slide that sort of came pretty generic, and this is how I changed it. So I changed the color of the icons, and obviously I changed the icons from just being all these little sporty ones to being all different types of ones. So this is one thing that I built easily enough in Canva to try and show how the model prediction works. So here we're looking to predict whether a runner will become injured or healthy, and I wanted to be able to show how that looks in terms of the k nearest neighbors model. I'll show you how to do this literally pretty quickly. Again, we're going to go to our elements, and I'm just going to look up dotted line. Okay, again, this is on the pro side, but this is one of those ones where like if you did have it with the watermarks, no one would really be able to tell. I'm just going to flip this because I like it better the other way around. So we're going to separate up our page to be part of the model predictor. I guess actually I'll make this a bit smaller. We're going to put our text in for injured and healthy. Cool. A lot of the times what you'll find is things that you can change the color for are pro, and things that come with one color are not pro. So that's like one of the reasons why I feel like it's good to have the pro version. So now we just want to add in some arrows. Sometimes it's tricky to find certain things, but strangely enough, when you find line, you actually get a proper arrow. So we're going to act like this is our most important person in the middle, and we want to just draw some comparisons between the others. Obviously, I'm not working super hard to make this look too good. It takes a little bit of playing around to get it all perfect. You get the idea. It's not too difficult. It doesn't take too long to get it to a pretty good state, and it looks like you've put a lot of effort in. And then this is one of the ones where I like to use a bit of a fun transition. So this one, that one's kind of good, but I think this one's pretty fun for this type of graphic. Cool. So not quite as nice as the finalized version on this side, but pretty good anyways. The last thing that I want to really show you is how to do a smart mock-up. So if you're doing a presentation in tech or anything like that, where you have sort of an example of how an app might look, it's really, really useful to be able to do smart mock-ups. So this is just something that I made before that's sort of Instagram story shape. Let's use this one. This one should work. So it's sort of the size of an Instagram story, and I have a bit of width either side and at the top and bottom for the room when we're going to do our smart mock-up. And this type of thing is really, really good to do if you are basically trying to impress as part of a presentation, or especially if you're trying to do anything for like a pitching presentation. So if you're trying to show off an app or anything like that, it's really, really great. So I've just highlighted the image and then do edit image, and then you go to smart mockups, and then pretty much the sky's the limit here. So for this, obviously I'm looking at versions where they're on a phone, so I could either be looking for it to be looking like somebody is using this, so then when we make that bigger, you can see it turns out like that. And now it looks like somebody's using this. But the one that I like to use the most, I'll just show you a couple more of these. and it looks really, really cool. So especially if you're in any kind of pitching presentation, it can be very impressive to have, going through the storyboard of the different ways that somebody would use this. You can also do ones where it is sort of just the phone on its own. So you can see the phone on its own being used there. But the one that I like to use the most is this one, and I'll show you why. Okay, so this we have the hand, and then we have everything else gone. So I'm just going to remove everything else from the background, and I'm going to add in an image. So I like to make it look like you're using this app out and about doing different things. So for example, like if you were going on a run, which is what my work would be around. So I'm going to find an image of a road. Let's say we're going on a nice night run. Okay, and then I'm going to just go ahead and click the image, and going to use replace background. So now that's there like that. So let's just imagine that we have like a few of these and they're all like a bit different. So I'm just going to replace the background a few times just to get a few different things going on. So this person's going on a variety of runs, I guess. Okay, so you can imagine now that this person is using this app, and then the next thing that we're doing is going to add a transition so it looks like they're just sort of like whipping out their phone. So that's why we're going to use this tumble transition, and we're going to do that for all three of these. So let's just see how that looks. So here we are, we're presenting, we're just showing off everything, and now we go into taking out the phone and using the demonstration, taking out your phone, using your demonstration somewhere else, and again somewhere else. And I just feel like this looks so cool and so professional, and I just feel like it really sets things apart from everything else. So I definitely recommend including things like that in your presentation if you're doing anything to do with apps. So let's just do a final go through of this presentation so you can just sort of see how all of this came together. So this was one of the ones that just sort of came with the package. Again, this I just had that same sort of quote type picture thing, and I added in this like border thing here underneath the text. Similar here, I just added a background image and then added some text. Same again here for a few slides. Now this is one of the quote ones that or the sort of statistics ones that we had. I just added a third one, and I feel like this is really good for helping to frame that early information. This one again, I just updated these and sort of increased the size of things, and just, yeah, change the colors basically and everything like that. This one was one of the ones that we had before, but instead of having a plain background, I just added an image to the background. Again, this one I didn't do much of a change. This is one of those sort of quotey ones, our example of how things are going to look in terms of how we're presenting things to the person. Going through the data. These are again just some elements, and I searched up runner and I searched up road and I just threw them in there. Again, searched up runner injury and happened to find this perfect example of somebody in the icons. Actually, to say this was a screenshot that I took from an old presentation where I'd actually made this using LaTeX, and I just again screenshotted that, threw it in, removed the background, and then it looks like it's part of this a little bit more cohesively. Again, great use of icons if I do say so myself, but I feel like it really helps people to connect what you're talking about with some sort of idea of how it works, if that makes sense. Again, showed you how to make that earlier, and I have a few of these, and I just feel like the transition here is kind of fun, maybe a little bit loud, but oh well. Again, this was an image that I had, and I just removed the background, and then it just fits in that bit more nicely. So you can see I like made use of a lot of very similar slides, and just the transitions and changing the colors a bit I feel really helps, and having a breakup of different types of slides every once in a while, I think it just sort of adds that visual interest. and again just returning to the example of the prototype and finishing things off. And of course our dramatic thank you. That is it for this video. I really hope that you took something useful away from it, and I really hope that it will sort of inspire you to get a bit more creative with your presentations. It's actually sort of gotten to the point now where I am actually looking forward to my next presentation, because I've sort of gotten a lot of confidence, I think, with presenting and with the type of presentations that I'm now creating, and it just feels really, really good. So I hope that you can have the same experience, and I wish you all the best. Again, if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. Can't wait to see you all in the next video. And of course, last but not least, a huge thank you to all of my wonderful members. You really make it possible for me to continue making these videos. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you all in the next video.